Hello everyone, my name is Zach, and today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to make some timers in Blender's geometry nodes. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and just add any object, and we can go over to the modifiers tab and add a new geometry node modifier. Create a new modifier, and we'll call it timer number. And then we can go over to the geometry nodes tab, and we get this interface. And we can go ahead and press in, and then we'll get this, and we can go ahead and add some inputs. So we don't want a geometry input, so we can get rid of that, but we do want that geometry output, so we'll leave that there. So for a timer, the first kind of essential thing is the timer length, right? And this is just going to be the number of seconds that the timer lasts. And this is going to be an integer because we only want to deal with whole numbers. You could do this with a float and then make it display decimal points. I just want it to be just the one integer, just one number timer. We'll make the default on this 10, and then I want the minimum to be 0. And then that will be good. And then we also want to add a starting frame input, and this is also going to be an integer because our frames are all whole numbers. Default's going to be 0 and minimum is going to be 0. And we're adding this because if we want our timer to start on, say, frame 100, we need to tell it that because it relies on the scene time to know. And so if we don't have that, it's not going to work. And I can demonstrate that in a minute. So then let's also add our frame rate. Currently, you can't get the frame rate, at least not to my knowledge, you can't get the frame rate inside of geometry nodes, just like from the scene, the way you can get like the scene time. So we have to do this. But generally this is just going to stick at 24 unless you change it, in which case this is where you can change it. We'll also have a resolution option. I like to add this to kind of give the option to make something high poly or low poly. We're going to make the default 16 and the minimum 3. The minimum is 3 because if we go lower than that, it's not going to work. And again, I'll demonstrate that in a minute. Then we'll add thickness for how thick we want our number to be. And then, let's see, add another integer for subdivisions. Adding subdivisions is a super easy way to, increase the vert count, increase the smoothness of your object. And then I'm also going to use, let's use material. There we go. And then we have a final input for our material that we're going to use. And you don't have to add this, but I like having it exposed over in here. So now let's go ahead and say our timer length is going to be 10 seconds. We can start it at frame 0. Our frame rate is 24. Resolution, we'll just say is 16. Thickness is 1. And now we're good to actually get started. So the first thing we want to do, right, is get like the number that we want, right? And we can do that just with some math. So we want to get our starting second and like our and then add it to the timer length, right? So here, this starting second, well, we can just say the starting frame divided by the frame rate, right? And then that is starting second, and then we can add this to the timer length, right? And then that is now our max time that we can use. And so then we can actually subtract the current second from this. But to do that, we have to calculate the current second. And that's pretty easy though. We can just grab the scene time, and then we could just use seconds here, or we can grab the frame rate, right? And then we can divide our frame by the frame rate, and that'll give us our current second. So we'll call this current second, and then when we subtract our current second from the maximum time, that should give us our timer value, right? So we can convert this float to a string. I don't think that's right. Let's see. To string, value to string. That's it. And then now that it's a string, we can string to curve. All right. And then now we actually have some geometry that we can output here. Awesome. So we have 10, which is what we should have, right? Because our timer length is 10 and we're at frame 0. And now if we press space and start, we can see it counts down. Awesome. And that is exactly what we want to see happen right now. And so this is cool. So we've got this number that's counting down, and now we want to put some geometry around this curve, right? We don't just want to leave it as a curve. So we can resample this to our resolution. And then I'm gonna drag these down. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, kind of like that. So now you can see how that changed, and if we increase our resolution, it'll get super clean, and then if we decrease it, it gets kind of low poly, you know. All right, and then after resampling it, we can just do curve to mesh. Then we have to select what our profile curve is going to be, and that profile curve, we're just going to use a curve circle. And that is too big at the moment. So we'll go ahead and hook that resolution up. And then that radius, we want to take our thickness and then multiply it. And I'm going to multiply it by probably like 0.05 and then hook that up to the radius. Oh, yeah. All right. That's not bad. I'm going to actually make that smaller. 0.025. Oops, did not mean to do that. I wanted to up the resolution to see what it would look like. Yeah, we'll go with 0.025, and then we can just increase the thickness if we want it to be thicker. Yeah, that looks decent. All right, and then how does it look? Oh, don't want to change the frame rate. How does it look at a lower resolution? Let's say 8. It looks a little rough, but it's got a fun low poly look to it. At least some of the numbers do. All right, set that back to 32. Give it a subdivision maybe. And then that is a nice and clean, super easy timer. But of course we can still improve this, right? So let's hook up our material, set material, and let's label this appropriately. Curved mesh. This technically isn't part of that, but it goes with it. And then hook our material up. Alright, and then let's I guess we can just make a new material. Oh, did not like that. New material, and then I'm going to delete this and add just a hue saturation value node because I like just hooking up the straight color to it. And then we'll make this, I don't know, a nice dark kind of blue color, I guess. And then if we set this material to be blue, our number is now blue. Awesome. I want to make that a little bit darker, and that looks good. All right. So now we've got our blue number, and what else do we want to do to it? All right. Let's see, is there anything we haven't hooked up? Subdivisions, right? Subdivision, surface, level, mesh. Subdiv and material. All right, and oh, okay, and there actually, I think we've stumbled upon a little problem. So if we set our timer length, if we set our timer length to 5 here, and then we count the timer down, we can see that when we get to 0, we don't stay at 0. It starts to go negative, which we don't want to happen, right? We want to get to 0 and then stop at 0. We want it to just be done. So what we can do is, where we've got this timer value, we can just clamp this. And then our maximum, we can just say is a lot, and then our minimum is 0, and we can hook that up. And then when we get to 0 here, it just stays at 0. All right. So that is that problem solved. And let's see. Now, this is a pretty good looking little number. And then if you want to change like the font, you can do it here. So for example, it'll open up your Windows Fonts folder, and then you can just pull something in, and then it changes the font on your number. Super easy. And then you can, download custom fonts and have fun to your heart's content with it, So what we're going to do is add a little bar around this, right? Because we want to have the timer, and then we want to have a bar that goes around it. So, but I'm going to do that as a separate node group, because sometimes I think I might just want to have the number, and then sometimes I'm going to want to have the bar, the number with the bar, I should say. So let's create a new mesh, and I'm just going to move this to the side a little bit, and we'll add a new modifier on here, and we'll call it timer bar. Sure. And then here, we're going to have inputs. Let's see. What inputs do we want to have? All right, we want to have all the same inputs that we had earlier. Man, it would be nice to be able to just duplicate that. Oh well, all right, let's make it. Timer length, integer. Oop. Default 10, min 0. Starting frame, integer, 0, 0. Frame rate, integer, 24, min 0. Resolution, which is an integer. Default 16, minimum of 3. Thickness, which is a float. Default 1, minimum of 0. Subdivisions. Integer, default 0, min 0. Material, type material, circle, also we'll call it bar, offset, it's a float, default 1, min 0, and then our socket is going to be bar thickness. And then float default 1, minimum 0, and then our final input is going to be invert bar, and it's going to be a Boolean. All right. So now we're good to actually do this. So then what I'm going to do is delete the cube we just made, make a brand new cube, and then put that modifier that we just made on it, right? Put timer bar on it, and then see if all these look correct. So timer length 10, we wanted that, starting frame 0, 24 frame rate, 16 resolution, 1 thickness, 0, no ID, 1, 1, and unselected. That looks perfect. All right, so now we're ready to actually use our bar. And the great thing is we can just pull in our number and then hook up all of these to it, right? And that's the great part about making this in multiple nodes, is it's super easy to just take the work that you've already done and reuse it. And then any changes that we make to the timer number will propagate to everything that uses that timer number node. So it's super easy, super convenient. All right, so we're actually going to wind up doing kind of the same thing that we did in the timer number. We still have to kind of redo some of our work. I'm actually going to do that. Well, no, I'm going to do it yeah. Kind of like that. Move you over a bit. All right, and now we've got some points to work off of. So we're going to take timer length and then add it, but we're going to add it to the starting frame divided by the frame rate, because the starting frame divided by the frame rate is the starting second, and then this is the max second or max time, and then we can subtract our current time from this, but we have to calculate our current time. So we can grab scene time, and then we could use seconds, but again, I prefer to divide by the frame rate just to be consistent, because we're using the frame here, and then admittedly we're converting it to 2 seconds, but alright, so then this is our current second. And then we can just subtract that, and that gives us our timer value. So timer value. But actually, we might not want to subtract this, right? Oh, we might not want to subtract this right now. Instead, what we might want to do is map the range of it. And the secret here is we're going to use an arc. And this arc is really nice because it has this sweep angle. And this sweep angle lets us go from, 0, nothing to the full arc super easily. We just have to go from 0 to 360 degrees. And that is no problem for us. So we can take the resolution here, and then let's see, I'm just going to keep that sweep angle like that so we can see it. Now this radius is going to line up with the bar offset, right? So we'll take that, put it in there. There we go. And then we want to take our current second and then map that from 0 to 360 degrees, right? Because then that'll let us go from, no arc to the full circle arc. And so we can do that with a map range node. So our value is going to be the current second, and then our from min is going to be 0, and then our from max is going to be this maximum second, and then we're mapping it to a minimum of 0, and then this max we want to actually put it in radians, because if we hover over the sweep angle when it's 360 degrees, we can see it actually shows up as 6.28, not 360. It's because it's in radians and it's just kind of showing up as degrees. So 28318 6.2831855. And then we can hook that up, and then we will see. All right, we have a circle that rotates as our timer fills up. That's awesome. Now, I don't know if you're noticing what I'm noticing, but that number is not centered. So let's see. Actually, what I think we can do is go back to our timer number node and then make sure that our text alignment is set to center and middle. Right? No. That's definitely not right. No. Is that really truly the middle? Let's see, what is your X location is that one, but you're not offset on that Y at all. That looks in the middle. We'll call that in the middle. It says it's in the middle. So we'll go with it. All right, but then we can just change our start angle. We set our start angle to 90 degrees, and then that sets it in the right spot. And let's see, our number looks a little bit offset in the negative Y direction. It looks like it should be up a bit more. So I might do that manually. Just in here, I might, let's see, I'm sure you would mind if I transform, and then move. All right, and let's see how this looks. Yeah, I feel like that's more centered. Well, I do feel like that's more centered. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Although maybe it's I don't know. Weird. Yeah, I guess we just have to offset it by 0.05 meters in the Y direction. All right. And then, all right, so then we can take this arc and we can convert it into a mesh. So we can curve to mesh and then get a curved circle. And let's see. Let's get our resolution in there, and then the radius we want, that is going to be our bar thickness, but we're going to multiply that. And let's see, we want to multiply it by probably 0.05 if I had to guess. Yeah. Upper resolution, decrease that. And then we also want to, let's see, map to radians, mesh. And then we want to subdivide it and add the material. Nope, not that. Subdivision surface. And set material. And then we want to just grab our material. Let's see, I kind of want it to go the other way though. Like go around clockwise instead of counterclockwise. So I'm going to transform it. And I think all we would need to do is rotate it 180 degrees on the Y direction. And then that's going to make it go in the direction we want. Yeah, all right. That looks good. All right, that looks real good. And now, let's see, let's check. Our bar thickness is working. Our general thickness is working. Although I think we want, do we want thickness and bar thickness? Nah, that's just, well, actually I think I do want them to be related. So we'll multiply thickness by bar thickness. Not like that, like that. And now we change the thing. Yeah, there we go. So that's 1, and that's 1.25 for now. All right, and there we go. And then we want to hook up the invert bar, right? Because if we hit this invert arc here, we can make it so that it starts out as a full arc and then ends with nothing, right? Instead of starting as nothing and then ending with the full arc. And we can just do that by hooking up invert bar to invert arc. And now, whenever we hit that, we can see it changes. Alright, and then I think that's good. So we've got our timer, we've got our circle that goes around it, and we can choose to invert it or not. We can choose what material we want on it. I think we're good. Alright. If you like the blend timers, be sure to check out all of them at the link below. There's an additional one that I didn't cover in this video that uses a bar instead of a circle and is totally customizable. Better yet, these are all completely free, so check them out. And if you use them in anything, I'd love to know about it. Thanks. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe.